Patterson with the North Carolina Housing Coalition. Thank you for joining us this morning for our housing call. And at this time, I will turn it over to our Director of Housing Policy, Stephanie Watkins Cruz.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are having a great week so far. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. Our top three headlines today. The North Carolina General Assembly adjourned last week and they're on an adjusted schedule through the end of the year. They likely won't reconvene for another voting session, barring any emergencies until November. The Senate passed their continuing resolution on Saturday, so Congress is officially on August recess. And then an update on a proposed supplemental rule making proposal that was released by HUD yesterday that proposes to eliminate a civil rights era protection. Going right into organizational updates, we want to go ahead and let folks know that nominations for the 2026 North Carolina Housing Coalition Awards are now open. Each year, as many of you know, at the North Carolina Affordable Housing Conference Breakfast, we recognize organizations and individuals who have gone above and beyond the call of duty to advocate for affordable housing. If you or someone you know has excelled in housing advocacy over the last year, we'll make sure to include the link to the nomination form in the call notes, and nominations are due by September 18th. Also, speaking about the conference, early bird registration is open until September 24th. So if you want to get the best rate, you want to make sure that you register before then. After then, it goes to regular prices. So early bird registration prices are in effect until September 24th at 5 p.m. and then the prices will go up. The housing conference, the North Carolina Affordable Housing Conference, will be held at the Raleigh Convention Center on October 22nd and 23rd. Moving right into federal updates. Yesterday, on August 10th, HUD issued a supplemental notice of proposed rulemaking that would eliminate the agency's long-standing disparate impact regulations that specifically look at the Title VI. This prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin towards recipients of federal financial assistance, including federally assisted housing. If disparate impact regulations are eliminated, housing policies that disproportionately harm protected groups would be more difficult to prove in court. Public comments on this proposal are due by October 9th, 2026. Again, this is a protection that dates back to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And then this supplemental notice of proposed rulemaking, it would do away with the agency's longstanding disparate impact regulation. The Senate last Saturday passed a continuing resolution with a 90-6 vote to fund the government beyond the midterm elections. Once the House comes back on August 31st, they will have to vote again since they did pass different versions. Just a few highlights. The Senate's version would fund federal agencies through December 11th at current levels, and the House's version would fund agencies through December 4th. The Senate bill provides additional funding for disaster relief to FEMA and includes language to allow public housing authorities to repurpose tenant-based rental assistance funding to cover households with an emergency housing voucher through the rest of the calendar year. The Senate's legislation also includes language that does not allow ICE and Border Patrol to receive any additional funding during this stopgap funding period. And it includes language that temporarily blocks the proposed Office of Management and Budget grant-making rule that would allow political appointees to be in charge over federal grant-making decisions. This is a great time, y'all, while Congress is out on August recess to schedule in-district meetings with your members of Congress and invite them to see your impactful work, connect with them, build up those relationships, and connect them with folks in their district directly impacted by their decisions, and so that they can see how policies and programs are playing out and what solutions are needed. We're going to link two specific links in the call notes for you here. There is a August recess advocacy toolkit that was created by the National Low Income Housing Coalition. So we'll include that in the call notes. And we'll also include a tool from the National Council of Nonprofits that you can use to email your members of Congress and urge them to block implementation of the proposed rule around grant-making decisions. Moving on to state updates. The North Carolina General Assembly adjourned last week on Thursday, August 6th. On Wednesday afternoon, at the end of the voting session that day, the Speaker, Dustin Hall, mentioned that this would be the last substantive voting session until November, barring any special sessions called or any sort of emergency. And both chambers have adopted a joint resolution which kind of lays out their adjusted schedule for the remainder of short session. So to be clear, short session has just been kind of adjusted, kind of truncated, but they have adjourned. After August 6th, so after last week, so moving forward, they will only consider certain bills, such as bills vetoed by the governor. So this could still include HB 437, but that veto override vote did not take place last week. A big shout out to the folks that mobilized and that engaged with their members around that. They can also consider bills related to appointments, constitutional amendments, election laws, or adoptions of conference reports and bills that were sent to the House by August 6th for a concurrence vote. So there is going to be a list of remaining dates in the adjournment resolution that we'll paste in the call note for folks that they could return for applicable business. So for August, they could return on August 31st, but then adjourn on September 2nd. September 28th and adjourn September 30th. And they have a series of days or time frames like this through the end of the year. But again, both chambers have expressed that they will likely not take up any votes until after the election. So we anticipate the November date being close to when they will come back. On disaster recovery fund, we just want to continue to lift up that Renew North Carolina. So Renew NC has recently launched a pre-screening tool to help potential applicants prepare for the upcoming launch of the Workforce Housing for Ownership program. This pre-screening will provide initial review to help determine whether the Community Development Block Grant disaster recovery projects align with federal requirements and meet a national objective, as well as demonstrate financial feasibility. So of the 1.4 billion in CDBG-DR funding allocated by HUD to the state for Helene recovery, just shy of 54 million is allocated for this program, and we'll have a link in the call notes for folks to learn a bit more. Moving on to local headlines, as well as different events, reports, and resources. Great interview on Spectrum. The Governor's Senior Housing Policy Advisor spoke to Spectrum News earlier this week, I believe, or late last week, on how North Carolina is looking for solutions to housing access and affordability. And then there's also been a recent data showing foreclosure rates changing by state, and North Carolina is experiencing an increase in foreclosure filing. So definitely going to look at that data a bit more closely. On the reports and resources side, we're going to continue to lift up the driving opportunities fact sheets that were released by the North Carolina Justice Center. There are a few fact sheets that kind of highlight the intersection of this policy with things like housing, reduced poverty, and so there are a lot of great resources and information here as well. And then a few pieces from the Joint Center for Housing Studies, as well as Novogradac and other pieces. Events, on the event side, for those interested, the National League of Cities is hosting a webinar today, actually from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m., Unlocking Housing Goals with the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. So the link to register is there, or you can go to their website and you can find that event. There's also a lot happening in the Triad the week of August 26th and 27th. So there's the next Triad Housing Hangout. Community conversations on regional housing will be taking place on August 26th from 1 to 2 p.m. at the Forsyth County Central Library. And then the Forsyth County Humane Housing Network is meeting on August 27th from 9 to 12 noon at the same library to continue discussing action and strategies to address the county's 25,000 unit housing deficit. Also on August 27th, the North Carolina Coalition to End Homelessness will have their monthly workshop series, and this month's topic is white flag shelters. And for folks that are interested to save the date, they're calendar lovers like myself, go ahead and save the date for the 2027 CAHEC Partners Conference, June 8th through June 9th next year, 2027, at the Raleigh Convention Center. And with that, everyone, I hope you have a great rest of your week. As always, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or want us to explore anything a bit further. And with that, we'll talk to you next time.